Yeah, I'm about to be home in a little bit. I have a new commission from Renji. I just need an icon from it.
Alright, you know I charge though, right?
Yeah, I know. How much is it gonna be?
As many of you know, I'm a full-time designer, meaning I do this as a living. If it wasn't for design, then I wouldn't be able to afford all these Pokemon plushies here or less important things like heating or rent. Obviously, as a 13-year-old though, you don't have these sorts of responsibilities, but money is cool no matter how old you are. If anything, it's even cooler back then because you can spend all your money on eShop games and Black Tar heroin. So tell me, how was I supposed to afford any of that cool stuff when my commission prices back in 2013 were listed off like this? I was out here doing commissions for 0 to a pound? Not even just a pound, 0 to a pound! Selling quite literally anything under a pound turned into dust after PayPal fees anyway, so I was actively losing money for every single icon I made. And you know the worst thing? People still said I overcharged! You wanted graphics?
Yeah, an icon. I has to pay with money?
It says 0 to 1 quid.
Huh?
It depends what you want.
Okay. I'll probably think about it.
My brother in Christ, I sincerely wish no monetary struggles come your way, because if you're contemplating whether or not you can afford a potentially £0 item, that is another realm of broke. And I know broke, because I was doing the designs for quite literally nothing. Well, not literally nothing, I still had some principles. While I will be left with measly pennies after selling something like an icon, the money does add up over time, and for a young growing chap there's some good cash flow to have. There were definitely a handful of people that came to me asking for free designs, but I at least had the self-worth to say no. Hey?
Could you make a Pokemon AVI? I will give you free shiny Pokemon in XY for it.
No, sorry.
Okay.
Despite my criminally cheap prices, I still do stuff like this.
Hero, I love your graphics.
Thanks, it means a lot.
I've seen.
So, what sort of thing did you want?
So, can I get a banner for Euro 29? Because that's all I have right now.
I guess.
Are you sure? I'll save up a bit more if you need it. Sorry.
I charged a $5 for banners, but 13-year-old Aura was to just take whatever he could get. Probably half feeling bad for saying no, and the other half wanted money for the Steam Summer Sale, but either way, you still gotta know your worth. My prices for banners were £5. Not a lot, I know, because that's how worth it I felt my stuff was compared to all the other designers in the community at the time. Now, as much as comparison can help you get a decent idea of how much you should be charging, you definitely shouldn't let it hold you back from getting an actual fair amount for your work. I put a crazy amount of time and effort into these while also balancing schoolwork and everything else. Now granted, I was definitely no professional back then, especially compared to now, but I definitely had some decent work under my belt. This was early 2014 at the time, so I was 13, but at that point I made this banner right here for attacking toucans. Dude is still using it 9 years later, that is a bloody accomplishment. I made that banner for free just as a fan, but if this was something that I charged for, surely charging a $5 for something you're getting almost a decade of use out of? Doesn't really add up, does it? So as you saw, I had banners and icons as listed items on my commission sheet, but I didn't have things like logos. For stuff like that, I just said, message me and we'll work something out. Anyone who's ever attempted logo design knows it is absolutely by far one of the most complicated subgenres of design because of how much goes into it. There's all the research, conceptualization, revisions, and then the client can still come up to you and be like, hee no. All that in mind, reading back through this interaction has upset me greatly. You wanted to buy graphics?
Maybe like a logo or something?
What's your mascot?
Like Pokemon Storm Silver.
Alrighty, so how much were you looking to pay?
Dollars? Like 345?
Okay, cool. Converting that to my currency in 2014, the Great British Pound, after PayPal fees, this would have been £1.50 to £2.50 at the most. Here was the result. Now maybe this isn't the best example because I was garbage at best when it came to logo design back then, but this was absolutely fire back in the day. I just know 72 people wouldn't lie to me. Right? It's honestly all relative. Back in the day, the standard for design was way lower, especially in our little Pokemon community, so this was in the upper echelon of designs, especially compared to some idiots who made logos like this and this. That was a joke. Those two were also done by me. I was not very good at logo design. But my point still stands. I should be getting more than a quarter of a chicken select meal at McDonald's for one of the better designs out there at the time. Subjectivity is a much more nuanced topic when it comes to art and design. I'll make a full video on that soon. But when it comes to design, there are certain aspects and elements of a design that make it objectively fulfill certain criteria that can deem it better than another design at solving the problem of effectively communicating their point. The better you are at this, the more you should hopefully feel justified in raising your prices because you know exactly how to tackle problems in a way that is both objectively adherent to fundamentals, plus is appealing to your clients' or audience's specific needs. But even with that, some people still just don't care and they want to pay you peanuts because they can do it better in 5 minutes. Go on then, make something better and get the fuck out of my mentions! Honestly, it's a high-key disrespectful to tell an artist that this stuff is too expensive. If it's not within your budget, that's perfectly understandable. Art is a luxury. If you want some functional headphones, for example, these do the job just fine of getting sound into your ears, but if you want something more refined and a bit more luxury, then you're gonna have to spend a little bit more for something like this or something like this. A lot of artists think they get paid too much for their work, but seeing all my lovely artist mutuals saying they're getting paid too much, you put in all these years of practice and putting in effort. You shouldn't feel bad for just making enough to make a living, especially if this is what you do full time. And to all the artists that feel like they undercharge themselves, bring them prices up! I did a bit of research to gauge the general consensus on whether or not artists feel like they undercharge, charge fairly, or overcharge. And yes, by research, I do mean I made a poll on Twitter, so take these results with a pinch of salt. Out of 50 people, just over half said that they think they undercharge, and they got some pretty insightful reasons as to why.
I definitely undercharge, but I'm too afraid to ask for more.
I feel like this has got to be the main reason people undercharge themselves, right? Hell, I'm still like that to this day. There's a feeling that if you ask for too much, you might just turn a client off immediately and then just leave straight away, or you might come off as greedy. Here's the best way that I've found to look at this. 9 times out of 10, for me anyway, clients will approach you and not the other way around. Whether it's because they saw your commission sheet on their timeline, or they were looking for a specific style and they saw you. They messaged you because they saw your work among a sea of creatives and decided that you were worth messaging to get what they needed done. Putting a price out that is way under what you think you should actually be charging might get you the client, but then what happens when that client messages their friend saying, oh hey, go check out this guy, their prices are really cheap? Are you going to keep taking all these really cheap jobs just because the client might say no? Rather than that, open up the price that is actually fair for you. If the client has a different budget in mind, feel free to negotiate. And if not, they can always just decline. Whether it be politely or not is a whole different thing entirely, but you don't really want to be working with someone who's going to get pissed off that you're going to get paid fairly. I also do understand that sometimes just getting a cheap commission just to get a commission is better than getting no commission at all. So if you're not in a financial position where you can afford to lose a client, then that's also understandable. As long as you know that long term, trying to build up your skills and confidence to try and do one £200 commission rather than 10, £20 commissions is definitely going to be a lot better for you in the long run.
Bro, I undercharge the fuck. Every other commission, I'll get a client that reminds me that I need to up my prices.
Now, I've had some very demanding clients in my time, to say the least. If a client is particularly frustrating, 9 times out of 10 is because they don't know what they want or they keep asking for revisions on revisions on revisions. Quick note while editing, I just wanted to clarify that you aren't annoying if you ask for changes. Whoever's making your commission wants you to be happy with it, or at least they should, so 9 times out of 10, people don't have a problem with making changes. I'm also talking about when there's a complete lack of direction, since that's never fun on either side. If you're ever thinking, am I that annoying client? Then chances are you're not, because you actually have the self-awareness and empathy to consider the feelings of the artist, which a surprising amount of people do not. While it is your job as the artist or designer to figure out what this is and problem solve their problem, if you discuss with them a concept and you both agree on it, and then make said concept and they come back to you saying, no, I don't like it, let's remove quite literally everything and do it like this instead. That is now essentially 2 separate designs. So make sure you have a clause in your terms and conditions that clearly states that for any major overhauls, they're going to be charged a little bit extra. Oh? You don't have terms and conditions? Hey, I'm Saul Goodman. Did you know that you have rights? Even this could be a whole video in itself, so subscribe if you want to see more art discussions. But make sure you outline at least some sort of rules so you both know what you're getting into and nobody gets screwed over. Also, random side note, I've noticed that ever since increasing my prices, clients have become increasingly less and less annoying. This graph I found on Twitter perfectly illustrates my point. If you're gonna deal with annoying clients, you might as well be here rather than here. One last thing on this question actually, but did you know that you can actually potentially increase the number of people you work with by raising your prices rather than lowering them? It's the fact that people perceive more expensive things as more valuable, so by raising your prices you might actually get a few more clients. Higher prices do tend to be conflated with a higher demand and a higher quality, and people do love to feel like they're getting a premium quality service. You'll seem a lot more confident in your work too, because if you're charging such high prices, people are going to think you definitely know what you're doing. This generally would work better if you already do have a bit of experience, but you just lack confidence. Like, you probably can't pull this off if you just started doing art, but then again, if you just started doing art, you shouldn't be doing commissions anyway. You guys get what I'm saying. But there is something to think about, and you can apply this whether or not you're doing this full-time or just as a hobby.
Undercharged because I've only done work for friends and family, and I feel weird charging them full stop, let alone a full rate.
Working with family and friends is a little bit tricky. You don't always have to charge, especially if it's not for like a full-on project, but generally my friends understand how long it's taken me to get to where I am, so they're always more than happy to just pay what I'm asking. If you're worried about overcharging your friends and family, you can always give them like a discounted mates rate. A lot of people do that, me included, but just make sure you're not getting taken advantage of, because I've seen it happen way too many times. Remember, art is a luxury, so if you're doing something as a little gift to somebody, more power to you. Art gifts are great. Please, draw art for me. But don't let them force you into doing free stuff because it's just a drawing.
I don't even charge yet. I want to increase my portfolio.
Yeah, that's fine, there's no problem with that. Especially with graphic design, your goal is to problem solve and provide a service. So until you've established that you're confident in doing so, there's no problem just practicing until you're confident with your skill level. Again, as long as people aren't just taking advantage of your free status.
Despite raising my prices by a good amount recently, it's when I'm actually designing that I feel like I should have charged more. I haven't unlocked the skill where you're able to visualize how much work something will be and charge accordingly.
This is just something that'll come with time. Once you make enough designs, you'll generally get a much better grasp of the process. But if you want one tip to improve, I'd say create a plan for the project before quoting a price. That way you know roughly how much work is going to be involved. So let's say it's a rebrand. You go over the deliverables, the time frame, the specifics so you know how complex everything is going to be. Then if you vastly underestimated how much it's actually worth, you can always reevaluate with the client halfway through. And if they're reasonable, then most of the time you can come to some sort of common ground solution. What if you don't think you're undercharging though? What if you think you're overcharging?
I feel like I asked for a little too much, but it's because of currency conversion. I price in dollars, so I usually end up with a bit less when changing to pounds. But then again, people have told me to charge more before.
Despite feeling like I still kinda undercharge, Neon, I feel this 100%. It's a difficult one because a lot of people that get work from me are in other countries, so it's hard setting a price point that's actually worth something in my currency while not being extortionate in theirs. You can always just have your prices set into dollars rather than pounds, but then people are just put off by the bigger numbers, so yeah, I don't really have a solution for this one. Just make sure that even with the currency conversion, you're still getting paid a fair amount, because you still need to also consider things like PayPal fees and taxes and all this other stuff. All the years of practice and the actual physical time it's taking to do this commission specifically aside, this art stuff is expensive. Assuming that you don't or can't sell the 7Cs, you're paying $50 a month for Adobe or ungodly amounts for stuff like 3ds Max. And then you've got the stuff you're working on. PC, boom, that's $1,000 right there if you want something that's not gonna freeze every 2 seconds and make you cry. And even with spending that much, you're still gonna cry because it still will freeze every 2 seconds. I'm looking at you, After Effects. Plus, if you do a bit of mixed media, a bit of iPad drawing mixed with painting, have fun with that. So make sure you're getting a fair amount for yourself. Even if that just means bumping up your prices from £15 to £20, that is still one step closer to being able to pay for your programs or even just buying yourself something nice. It would take 5 commissions at a £20 price point to get to £100 total, whereas at a £15 price point it would take 7 commissions, so just slowly try and build up the confidence to try and ask for more. Of course, you should be trying to build up your skills at the same time to actually justify this increased price point, but other than the actual just design or art skills, you can also look to improving things such as your customer service or your efficiency when it comes to completing these commissions. There are so many different reasons you can look into to be charging more. Or just be chaotic evil like Emerald and let the client choose the prices themselves. Now I'm sure we've all been in this situation before. What's your price? What's your budget? But never have I seen this. What's your price? Sure, while you can get more often than not, you just won't? At the very least, set up some sort of base price, so when they hit you with the, hey, I want it for free, you at least have some sort of counter. There are 3 main ways to decide on pricing: hourly, item-based, or case-by-case/project-based. I don't personally like hourly, but that might just be because I have trust issues, so I won't really go into that method, but it's basically just like a salary where you tell them, yep, I charge £20 an hour, and then you get paid based on the number of hours you spend. Normally, the hourly rate is based on your living expenses and other factors you need to survive, but I just prefer to use one of the other ones because it allows for a more open and honest dialogue with your clients. Item-based is the old method that I used from when I very first began back in like 2012, 2013, up until maybe a year or 2 ago. Using my old commission sheet as an example, you want a banner? £5 please? A wallpaper? Well, your concept is pretty simple, so I'll only charge £1 since it's £1 to £3 and so on. An artist one might look a little bit more like this, where you charge based on how much of a character you draw, but generally the same idea applies. It definitely works, especially for individual items, and it can make it easy for people to approach you because they know exactly how much something is going to be before they message you, so there's no awkward conversation that ends in this. The main downside is when people have extra complex ideas. You can have things like 50% off additional characters, but what if they want 10 more characters, and 3 fully illustrated backgrounds, and 5 of the 10 to be turned into icons, all with different backgrounds? Item-based works, but generally it works best on smaller scales. Introducing case-by-case, project-based pricing. Now I do a lot of motion graphics. No shit. So naturally, that's what most of my commissions are for. I can't have all transitions cost £20 when someone like this? And others are like this. There's levels to this shit. I like to find out what my client or potential client needs and figure out the best way to solve it. Once we figure out all the different things they need, let's say a transition, a stream overlay, and a logo for example, then we can talk about the specifics of each. And then, and only then, can I throw out a proper number for the price so that I actually know how complicated the project as a whole will be. Within that number, I still have a base price in my head however. Like there's no way in hell I'm ever going to open up After Effects for a $5. Use the base price as a starting point, not a finishing point. Feel free to negotiate at this point. Most of the time when I put this number out, people just say, cool, what's your PayPal? But there are definitely times when the number that you state might be a little bit outside the client's budget. There's no problem with negotiating here. Let's say the number that I put out was £300, but the client hits me back with, I can only do $250. After fees and everything, that would leave me closer to $200 than $300. But let's say this is a client that I wanted to work with for ages, or it just looks like a really fun project to work on. If I'm not too busy, I'll still probably take it. While it would be nice to get the $300, I would still feel fairly compensated for what the job is if I'm still going to take it at the $200 price point. This actually reminds me of an old conversation with a client. Remember how I said my prices back then were £5? So?
Like, I know why I want, but I have to try to not spend a lot on the banner.
With all due respect, I don't get how you can charge less than that without just giving away for free. But hey, if you're outside someone's budget and you're charging this little anyway, it's probably best that you work with somebody else in the first place. It's also completely fine if you can't afford something from an artist or designer. Just be respectful and everything is all good. Don't be one of those people that goes off on an artist telling them how worthless their work is and how bad they are at art, while also simultaneously asking them for free art. Be like this guy. This guy gets it. I think we'll end it off with a fun little conversation I had with a client when I was 15.
Hey.
Hey man, what's up?
I just wanted to thank you first off for even replying to my tweet. So is there a limit to how much I can have on things? Because I just want a YouTube banner.
It's cool, and what do you mean by limit?
Like, how much are you able to do? I don't want to ask for too much.
Just tell me what you want and I'll tell you if it's doable.
I just want a YouTube banner with Mewtwo on it, something that would look cool and draw people with the words Auraverse in it. Like, it would draw people in to look at my channel since I will be starting my channel off soon.
You probably want to get a logo too then.
Yeah, that would be helpful, lol.
Alright, so what do you want the logo to look like?
I want Mewtwo's face inside like the letters AV with like a purple lighting would be nice.
I can work with that. Any deadline?
By Sunday would be nice if you're okay with that.
Alright, the cost should be around $10 to $20. I'll tell you the final price tomorrow when I get started.
I thought it was free. That's what your tweet before said.
I have never once said my work was free. Thanks so much for watching all the way through. If you have any topics that you want to see me cover, then leave them in the comments. And while you're down there, you might as well like and subscribe too. See you in 2 weeks with another cool art video.